Qian, I agree. I'll give the guaranteed postgraduate recommendation to Jiang Ling. The villa door finally opened, and Qian looked coldly at Jiang Yao, who had been standing in the rain for 2 hours. Wouldn't it have been better to have listened earlier? She held an umbrella and brought Jiang Yao inside from the rain. Qian's usually indifferent eyes held a trace of satisfaction. She poured Jiang Yao a cup of hot water, a rare tenderness on her face. Hey Yao, it's good that you've thought it through. Your grades are so good, whether you get the recommendation or not isn't important. It's different for A Ling. He's been delayed in the countryside for so many years. His foundation is weak, he can't keep up with his studies, and it's rare that he has the desire to improve. Just help him this time. Qian's seemingly gentle but firm tone made it seem as if she was certain he would give in. Jiang Yao looked at the woman he loved so close to him, his body trembling uncontrollably, feeling even colder than when he was out in the rain. This was the woman he had loved for 11 years, his girlfriend, his fiancée. Only today did Jiang Yao understand that she wasn't cold-hearted by nature. She simply didn't love him. Jiang Yao didn't remember his childhood. As far back as he could remember, he grew up in an orphanage. At 10, he was adopted by the Jiang family. At that time, the Jiang family was heartbroken over the loss of their biological son. Even after adopting Jiang Yao, the atmosphere at home was always gloomy. Jiang Yao's adoptive parents were strict, constantly comparing him to Jiang Ling, hoping he would grow into a standard rich young master. During that time, Jiang Yao suffered greatly, enduring endless lessons, endless skills to learn, and endless scolding. And Qian was the only light in his oppressive years. She had an ethereal temperament, spoke little, but handled everything with ease, approaching perfection. She was like the most dazzling princess in the crowd, capturing Jiang Yao's gaze. The Qi and Jiang families were close, and since childhood, they had talked about arranging a marriage for their children. The real Jiang Ling was lost, and this engagement fell to the adopted Jiang Yao. From the age of 10 to 21, Jiang Yao knew that she was his future wife. He willingly followed Qian, his joys and sorrows dictated by her. Qian never responded, but she never refused either. She played the role of a qualified fiancé, walking alongside him. Jiang Yao thought she saw the him who had always silently followed her, that she was moved by him, willing to accept his kindness, and in return, gave him some care. But just as Jiang Yao felt that their relationship was getting better, Jiang Ling returned. From that day on, everything changed. The heat of the water in his hand was scorching. Jiang Yao suddenly came back to his senses and went into the bathroom to wash off the rain. Qian stood where she was, watching his back. Let's go to the Maldives sometime. I'll take you diving. Jiang Yao paused. She was always like this, giving him a little sweetness when he wanted to give up, making him reluctant to leave. But this time, Jiang Yao wasn't as happy as she had imagined. He turned around and looked at her coldly. Qian, I can't swim, let alone dive. Jiang Ling was a swimming champion as a child and was enthusiastic about activities like diving and surfing. It was self-evident who Qian wanted to go to the Maldives with. Qian didn't feel the slightest bit embarrassed and asked as if nothing had happened. Then where do you want to go during the holidays? I'll arrange it. It was rare for Qian to ask for his opinion. Jiang Yao didn't argue with her again, nor did he answer. After he came out of the bathroom, Qian looked up from her phone and glanced at Jiang Yao. Do you have a fever? Jiang Yao gave a bitter smile. It was the middle of winter, and she had left him outside in the rain for 2 hours. It would be strange if he didn't have a fever. Qian pulled him onto the bed and tucked him in. Lie down. I'll get you some medicine. She had just turned around when her phone rang. The next second, Jiang Yao heard Jiang Ling's voice on the phone. Sister Qian, my stomach hurts so much I'm dying. Wait, I'm coming right over. Hearing the plea for help, a rare anxiety appeared on Qian's face. Without any hesitation, she walked straight out, completely forgetting about the feverish Jiang Yao behind her. The large villa instantly became empty. Jiang Yao's head was spinning from the fever. In a daze, his heart ached. Love and not love, it was so obvious. Fortunately, Jiang Yao's biological parents had also found him not long ago. He dialed the international number he had previously rejected several times. About what you said before about going to the United States, I agree. After I finish my academic work here, I'll return to the United States to reunite with you in half a month. That's great. Our dear son, we will make it up to you. After more than 10 years, we finally get to reunite with you. For these 2 weeks, be a good son to your adoptive parents and say goodbye to them properly. Say goodbye? Did anyone really care whether he stayed or left? There was no need. Half a month later, after packing everything, he would quietly leave this place. A sudden, intense fever swept over Jiang Yao, leaving him feeling like he was being roasted alive. His breathing labored. In a daze, he dialed 120 and was taken to the hospital alone by ambulance. After his 4 drip finished, the sky had begun to lighten. Jiang Yao pulled out the needle and went to the bathroom. At the corner of the hallway, he heard a familiar voice. Sister Qian, it's all my fault. My constitution is so weak. Just 1 ice cream gave me gastroenteritis, and I made you stay here with me all night. Jiang Yao stopped in his tracks. Through the glass door of the ward, he saw the person inside. Jiang Ling. Qian was holding a thermos, carefully blowing on each spoonful of soup before feeding it to Jiang Ling. Her face held a tenderness Jiang Yao had never seen before. You've suffered so much since you were young. That's why your constitution is so weak. It's okay. I'll be with you, and we'll slowly nurse you back to health. Jiang Ling smiled sweetly, but the smile quickly froze on her lips. Sister Qian, you haven't gone back all night, won't I mind? At the mention of Jiang Yao, the smile on Qian's face faded. He has no right to mind. Even though he had long known Qian's different attitude towards him and Jiang Ling, hearing these words still felt like a needle piercing his heart. He had no right? He had loved Qian for 11 years, been her official boyfriend for 3, and in the end, all he got was he has no right. Jiang Yao leaned weakly against the wall, his head hanging, when he heard hurried footsteps. He looked up and met a cold face. It was his older sister in the Jiang family, Jiang Mingyue. Jiang Mingyue looked at Jiang Yao like he was an enemy, her eyes full of suspicion. What are you doing here? What do you want to do to Ailing? 3 days after Jiang Ling returned to the Jiang family, there was an unexpected car accident. Everyone believed Jiang Yao was responsible. No matter how he explained, no one believed him. In the eyes of the Jiang family and Qian, Jiang Yao was someone who would stop at nothing to consolidate his position. Therefore, their gazes towards him grew increasingly cold and indifferent. Sister, Jiang Yao managed to choke out, stung by her look. Jiang Mingyue didn't answer, but looked past him into the room. Seeing Qian and Jiang Ling leaning intimately together, reading a book, she instantly understood. She roughly shoved Jiang Yao around the corner, completely disregarding his physical condition. Jiang Yao, I know what you're thinking. You saw Ailing and Qian together, and you're jealous, aren't you? Jiang Yao found it ridiculous. He was Qian's official boyfriend, yet he was being questioned like this. Shouldn't I be jealous? Qian is my girlfriend. Jiang Yao gritted his teeth. Jiang Mingyue scoffed. Jiang Yao, you're shameless. You replaced Ailing in the Jiang family, lived a comfortable life for 11 years. And you actually think all of this belongs to you? You should wake up. Everything you have should belong to Ailing. If you know what's good for you, break up with Qian soon. As long as Ailing is happy, we can treat you like we used to. Like before? Superficially, the adopted son of the Jiang family, but in reality, constantly scolded and reprimanded. No matter how hard he tried, how excellent he was, they would always look down on him, simply because he wasn't Jiang Ling. Jiang Yao's eyes were bloodshot. He gritted his teeth and asked the question that had always been on his mind. Coming to the Jiang family wasn't my choice. Your parents took the initiative to adopt me. Now that Jiang Ling is back, I'm willing to leave the Jiang family and return everything to him. But why won't you agree? Jiang Mingyue looked him up and down, as if he were a fool. Why? It can't be, because we're reluctant to part with you. Can it? Of course, it's for the Jiang family's reputation. Jiang Yao felt like he had been struck by lightning. His body swayed a few times before he finally collapsed. So that was it. The Jiang family couldn't bear the infamy of abandoning their adopted son after finding their biological one. So they kept him trapped. They watched as Jiang Ling took away everything he cared about. The family he had lived with for over 10 years had only ever treated him as an emotionless substitute. Jiang Yao stayed in the hospital for 3 days, and no one visited him. He carried his luggage back to the house, which was as deserted as when he left. Perhaps Qian hadn't been back these 3 days. She'd been with Jiang Ling the whole time. This villa was a gift from Qian to Jiang Yao for his 20th birthday, and he had always considered it their home. Now Qian was no longer his Qian, and this house no longer felt like home. Jiang Yao took his medication and lay on a lounge chair by the pool, basking in the sun. After an unknown amount of time, a shadow fell over him. He opened his eyes to see Jiang Ling looking at him with a smirk. Brother Yao, you're awake? I came here today specifically to thank you. Thank you for being so generous and giving me the guaranteed graduate school spot you worked so hard for 3 years to earn. How did you get in? Jiang Yao asked, then immediately regretted it. Only he and Qian had keys to the house, so naturally, Qian had given it to him. As expected, Jiang Ling covered her mouth with a giggle, looking triumphant. What do you mean? Sister Qian gave it to me, of course. She's been staying at my place these past few days. She has something to do today. So, she asked me to come and get some of her clothes. Jiang Yao felt nauseous, as if he had swallowed a fly. He steadied himself, not wanting to tangle with Jiang Ling any further, and issued an eviction notice. Second floor. Take them and leave. Jiang Ling, however, sat down by the pool leisurely, kicking the water idly. Hey Yao, I heard you can't swim. So who do you think Sister Qian built this pool for? Oh, and by the way, did you not know? I've loved swimming since I was little, and I've even won swimming championships. Her sharp voice pierced Jiang Yao's ears. He endured the pain and said coldly, swim if you like. After all, you can't do anything well now, so having a good physique will at least save your parents some worry. Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, Jiang Ling jumped up and glared at him. Jiang Yao ignored her gaze and walked toward the house. As he passed her, she suddenly grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the pool. In a split second, 2 figures appeared at the pool's edge and grabbed both Jiang Ling and Jiang Yao. Before Jiang Yao could react, Jiang Ling feigned distress. Dad, Mom, Yao tried to push me into the water. My gastroenteritis hasn't even healed yet. I didn't know it was him. Jiang Yao's explanation was cut short as both Jiang Fu and Jiang Mu glared at him fiercely. Your sister told us you went to the hospital. We were going to visit you. Jiang Yao, how could you be so vicious? What did Ling do to offend you? You keep attacking him. Do you want him dead? A torrent of abuse rained down on him. Jiang Yao lowered his head, just like he always did, unable and unwilling to resist. Jiang Mu's finger nearly poked him in the eye, while Jiang Fu was even more agitated. Ingrate! He cursed, then, not satisfied, kicked Jiang Yao in the waist, sending him tumbling into the pool. It was a standard deep water pool, and Jiang Yao couldn't swim. He thrashed desperately in the water, but his body grew heavier and heavier. He watched as the close-knit family of three walked hand in hand into the house. Through the haze, he heard them laughing. It's just a pool. It won't kill him. He wanted to push Ling in, so he should get a taste of what it's like to be soaked in cold water in the middle of winter. His body sank like a falling leaf. Jiang Yao was overwhelmed by endless pain and regret. It was a shame to die like this, he thought, before he even had the chance to meet his biological parents. He wondered if they would dote on him the way the Jiang family doted on Jiang Ling. With a splash, a dark figure entered the water and dragged Jiang Yao to the shore. Jiang Yao coughed up water and slowly opened his eyes, seeing Qian and the bodyguard who had saved him. Qian. A flicker of warmth rose in Jiang Yao's heart. She still cared about him, at least a little. In the next instant, Qian's eyes turned icy. Jiang Yao, you're relentless. Wasn't causing Ling's car accident enough? Now you want to drown him. Whenever it involved Jiang Ling, Qian lost her usual composure. Jiang Yao was stunned. Before he could explain, Jiang Ling ran out. He tugged lightly on Qian's arm, his lips pursed, looking utterly aggrieved. Sister Qian, don't blame me, Yao. Maybe he didn't mean to. Qian patted his hand, reassuringly. Ling, don't make excuses for him. He's incorrigible. She turned and looked down at Jiang Yao. Jiang Yao, for the sake of our many years of acquaintance, I had someone save you this time. If there's a next time, I won't be so lenient. Jiang Yao collapsed on the ground. His waterlogged clothes were icy cold, but the chill in his heart was far deeper. It was always like this, time and time again. They always chose to believe Jiang Ling, viewing him as the heinous villain. But in reality, Jiang Ling was never harmed. It was he, Jiang Yao, who was always left battered and bruised. When Jiang Yao entered the room, the laughter of the four people inside abruptly stopped. Everyone looked at him like he was a hateful usurper. Dragging his cold body and heavy steps, Jiang Yao turned and went upstairs. Oh no, where's my jade ring? Did it fall into the pool just now? Jiang Ling suddenly exclaimed. Jiang Yao sensed that this was directed at him and quickened his pace, attempting to escape everyone's gaze. But his father wouldn't let him off. Jiang Yao, stop. Did you throw Ling's jade ring into the pool? Jiang Yao turned his head and weakly replied, it wasn't me. I didn't push him, and I didn't throw his jade ring. Having just recovered from a high fever and cold, and then struggling in the water for so long, he felt dizzy and weak. I clearly saw you grabbing Ling's arm and trying to push him into the water. How dare you lie? Jiang Mu's shrill voice echoed through the villa. At the same time, Jiang Ling looked at Qian, his eyes red-rimmed and pitiful. If it were an ordinary ring, it wouldn't matter, but that was a gift from Mom and Dad. During the years I was abducted, I relied on that jade ring, just hoping to see Mom and Dad again one day. Hearing this, Jiang Mu thought of the suffering Jiang Ling had endured and started crying, holding her son. Jiang Fu, even more furious, strode forward and dragged Jiang Yao down the stairs. How can you be so jealous? Jiang Yao, if you don't find Ling's ring in the pool today, I won't let you get away with this. Jiang Fu yelled as he dragged him outside. Jiang Yao was too weak to resist and could only cast a pleading look at Qian. Qian's eyes were icy, holding no warmth as she looked at him. She turned and grabbed a diving mask, handing it to Jiang Yao. Put this on and find Ling's ring in the pool. Seeing Jiang Yao shake his head, her tone hardened. You owe him this. Finally, the three women forcibly put the oxygen mask on Jiang Yao, and Jiang Fu unceremoniously pushed him into the water. The four of them stood by the pool, chatting and laughing, occasionally urging Jiang Yao not to be lazy. Whenever Jiang Yao's movements slowed, even for a moment, Jiang Fu would pick up a long pole and strike the water surface. Jiang Yao didn't dare lift his head again, only able to submerge himself, searching the pool inch by inch. The sky gradually darkened, the water temperature dropped, visibility decreased, and Jiang Yao's movements slowed. When he surfaced for air, he heard Qian's voice. Ling can't sleep soundly without that jade ring. Don't even think about deliberately delaying. If you don't find the jade ring, you don't need to come out. Jiang Yao sank despairingly to the bottom of the pool. After 4 full hours of searching, Jiang Yao finally found Jiang Ling's jade ring in the crevice of the drain. He climbed out of the pool with the ring in hand, collapsing on the side, completely drained of strength. They gathered around, took the jade ring from his hand, and looked at his pathetic state with disdain. Jiang Ling, arm in arm with his parents, walked away without a glance back. Qian dropped a cold, take care of yourself, and turned to follow Jiang Ling, never looking back. Jiang Yao lay by the pool, his body icy cold, listening to their laughter fade away as he lost consciousness. Jiang Yao spent 2 days lying alone in the villa. After waking up, he called his biological parents overseas. "I've made up my mind. Don't apply for a short-term visa. Apply for permanent residency directly." A burst of excited cries came from the other end of the phone, but Jiang Yao felt no joy. Leaving the city where he had lived for over 20 years was painful and difficult for him. The process for applying for permanent residency was more complicated than a regular visa. Jiang Yao prepared a lot of documents and made several trips back and forth to the U.S. Embassy. The last time he came out of the embassy, a flashy Ferrari sped past. He didn't have time to see the license plate, but he knew that there was only one of those limited edition supercars, only 100 in the world, in the city, and it belonged to Qian. His heart panicked for a moment, but he quickly comforted himself. Qian's heart was always full of Jiang Ling. She couldn't possibly notice him on the side of the road. Even if she did, she wouldn't care. At night, Jiang Yao sat alone on the cold floor, turning the television up to its maximum volume to combat the loneliness of the villa. The lock clicked, and he saw a face he hadn't seen in a long time. Qian walked up to Jiang Yao, her tone questioning. "Where are you going?" Jiang Yao looked at her calmly. "What's wrong? I saw you at the U.S. Embassy today. What were you doing there?" "Oh, our research group's experiment is almost finished, and there should be results soon. My advisor signed me up for an academic conference in the U.S. to present the experimental results." This was the answer Jiang Yao had prepared long ago. Qian nodded slightly, masking the subtle emotion she had felt earlier. When she saw Jiang Yao at the U.S. Embassy today, her first thought was that she had seen wrong. How could Jiang Yao secretly go to the U.S. without telling her? She turned back and saw Jiang Yao get into a taxi, and only then did she start to feel a little uneasy. But that unease didn't last long, because Qian knew that Jiang Yao loved her very much. How could he bear to leave her? Jiang Yao wasn't close to his adoptive parents. For many years, past and future, she was his only support in this world. He had chased after her for so many years, his attachment and love intertwined, deep in his bones, not something that could be easily discarded. Qian curved her lips and, as before, reached out and gave Jiang Yao a hug. "Want to watch a movie? I'll keep you company." Jiang Yao instinctively wanted to ask, "Don't you need to be with Jiang Ling tonight?" But he hesitated and didn't ask. In the end, Jiang Yao didn't refuse. He chose an old-fashioned love movie and watched it with tears streaming down his face, while Qian kept looking at her phone. The moment the ending credits rolled, Jiang Yao stood up and softly said, "I'm sleepy. I'm going to bed." He slowly walked upstairs. Qian called out to him. "Tomorrow at the Intercontinental Hotel, celebrating Jiang Ling's acceptance into graduate school. As his older brother, remember to prepare a gift." Jiang Yao didn't answer, just continued upstairs without looking back. Early the next morning, Qian sent over a gift box. Jiang Yao opened the box and saw a luxurious diamond watch. The card read, "Congratulations to Ling for getting what he wanted, signed Jiang Yao." Jiang Yao gave a wry smile. Qian was truly thoughtful, but he didn't know whether this thoughtfulness was for him or for Jiang Ling. When Jiang Yao arrived at the hotel, harmonious laughter was already drifting out from the private room. He held the doorknob, hesitating whether to go in. If he did, the harmonious atmosphere would come to an abrupt end, and everyone would be unwelcoming. But if he didn't, his family and Qian would attack him again with words like inconsiderate and ungrateful. In that moment of hesitation, the sound of a glass falling to the floor came from inside the room. Through the glass of the private room, Jiang Ling could be seen pouting, the smile gone from his face. Jiang Mu was the first to notice her son's change in mood. "What's wrong, Ling?" "Nothing, it's just that Jiang Yao's experiment results came out. They say it's a major breakthrough discovery. Everyone in the group chat is congratulating him." The smile on Jiang Fu's face also faded. Jiang Mingyue was skeptical and took Jiang Ling's phone to look at the chat history. Today was the day the postgraduate recommendation results were announced, and initially, the group was full of congratulations for Jiang Ling. But someone had posted the news of Jiang Yao's successful experiment, and the wind immediately changed. Everyone was praising Jiang Yao as a scientific genius who should be directly recommended for a doctoral program, completely overshadowing Jiang Ling. Jiang Mingyue slammed the phone on the table in anger. "That Jiang Yao, I think he did it on purpose. He deliberately chose to announce this news today to embarrass Ling." Jiang Mu was also angry when she heard this. That Jiang Yao, always trying to make himself known. The family doesn't want to pay attention to him, so he seeks attention at school. He's truly malicious. Jiang Fu took out his phone, intending to call Jiang Yao. Everything he has was stolen from Ling. I don't know what he has to be proud of. I'll call him over here right now. Hearing her father say this, an idea suddenly popped into Jiang Mingyue's head. She stopped her father's hand before he could dial, saying mysteriously, "Dad, calling him over won't do any good. He'll just put on that indifferent act. I have a better idea, one that will stop Jiang Yao from being so arrogant." "What is it?" the Jiang family asked in unison. "It's just an experiment. No matter what major discovery it is, we'll just say Ling did it. Then Ling will be the one called a scientific genius. Not only will he get a postgraduate recommendation, But a direct doctoral admission won't be a problem either. Jiang Ling excitedly stood up, his resentment replaced by joy. Sister, you're brilliant. Jiang Fu and Jiang Mu nodded repeatedly. You're right. Anyway, everything Jiang Yao has now belongs to A Ling. We raised him for over 10 years. It's just one experiment result. What does it matter if we give it to A Ling? Having received everyone's approval, Jiang Mingyue couldn't wait to put her plan into action. But she knew that her relationship with Jiang Yao had always been poor, and he definitely wouldn't agree if she went to him. So, Jiang Mingyue turned her gaze to Qian. Qian, what do you think? Outside the door, Jiang Yao felt as if he had fallen into an icy abyss. He struggled to control his hands, stopping himself from bursting into the room. Even though he had known that his family had little affection for him, hearing them plotting to strip him bare like this still made him feel incredibly desolate. Jiang Yao listened to the voices inside with a racing heart. Qian, would she agree? After a moment of silence, Qian's firm voice rang out from the room. Okay, I'll talk to Jiang Yao and ask him to give the experimental results to A Ling. Jiang Yao didn't dare return to the villa. He hid himself in the laboratory and turned off his phone, but Qian still found him. She got the lab key from the dean. She knew Jiang Yao would be here. He had nowhere else to go. Under the dim light, Jiang Yao raised his head from the computer. Dark circles were evident under his eyes. He looked exhausted. Jiang Yao's eyes reddened as he watched Qian approach him step by step. Compared to usual, the curve of her lips was more pronounced, as if she were preparing for something. Working so late again? Didn't you say the experiment was already successful? She asked with concern. Jiang Yao's voice was hoarse. He spoke with difficulty. Yes, it is. Qian leaned over and hugged him. Congratulations, Yao. Jiang Yao closed his eyes and didn't reply. He still held a sliver of hope in his heart, hoping that Qian's congratulations were sincere, hoping she wouldn't utter those cruel words. After a long while, Qian looked at Jiang Yao again, her expression indifferent. Yao, give your experimental results to A Ling. A heavy hammer struck Jiang Yao's heart. Even though he had long known her choice, hearing her say it so bluntly still caused him piercing pain. Before Jiang Yao could answer, Qian offered her reasoning. You're a good student and you're talented. You'll definitely have other achievements in the future. A Ling is different. He's about to start graduate school, and he can't do it without a couple of academic papers to his name. Jiang Yao struggled to stand up, supporting himself on the table. He questioned Qian in a hoarse voice. I'm a good student? I'm talented? Can't you see my hard work? I spend day and night in the lab, my hands peeling layer after layer from the chemicals. I put all my heart and soul into this to achieve these results. Qian, don't you have a heart? His barrage of questions annoyed Qian. Her eyes were sharp as she looked at him coldly. You work hard, so what? Jiang Yao, don't forget where you came from. You've lived a good life in the Jiang family for over 10 years in A Ling's place. Now, shouldn't you make a small sacrifice for him? One should always be grateful. You can't be an ungrateful wretch who only wants to take and is unwilling to give. Don't worry, as long as you give in to A Ling a little, I won't break up with you. Consider this compensation for A Ling. Compensation, ungrateful wretch. Hearing these words, Jiang Yao suddenly laughed. He clutched his chest, looking at the woman he had loved for 11 years. In the end, she only saw him as an ungrateful wretch. For the first time, Jiang Yao pushed Qian away. Qian, consider me an ungrateful wretch then. I won't give the experimental results to Jiang Ling. This time, I absolutely will not back down. Jiang Yao turned and left without looking back. Qian watched his retreating figure, her eyes cold and sharp. Jiang Yao rented a room near the school for a week. Fortunately, there was nothing he needed in that empty villa anymore. He just wanted to finish writing his report, take his own results, and leave this place forever. After hiding for a few days, he hadn't received any further messages from Qian and assumed she had given up. Jiang Yao returned to the lab with his laptop, intending to finalize his report. At the lab building entrance, he swiped his face several times, but the access control system kept displaying denied. Jiang Yao took out his phone and called, Professor, why is my access card deactivated? His usually gentle mentor was now incredibly cold. Jiang Yao, starting today, you are no longer a member of our lab, and you will no longer be able to enter. As if struck by lightning, Jiang Yao could barely control his body, swaying in place. Why? He asked incredulously, but only a cold dial tone answered him. He immediately sat down, opened his laptop, and discovered that all his lab access permissions had been revoked. He could no longer view or use anything related to the lab. He couldn't even see the experimental results he had worked so hard to obtain. He angrily rushed to the academic affairs office, but didn't see his mentor. Only a familiar teacher whispered to him, Jiang Yao, it's no use looking for your mentor. This isn't his intention, and there's nothing he can do. Jiang Yao squatted in the corridor of the academic affairs office, his body ice cold, enveloped in despair. He should have known. After being rejected, Qian wouldn't just give up. She would definitely find other ways. Looking at the whole city, besides the Qi and Jiang families, who else could force the school and his mentor to submit? Meanwhile, the department's group chat was buzzing again. Someone posted a message congratulating Jiang Ling on the success of his experiment, which had gained recognition from many research experts in the field. Congratulatory emojis flooded the chat, and Jiang Ling's joy was palpable even through the screen. Thank you, everyone. My long-term efforts have finally yielded results. I'm so happy. I'm hosting a celebratory dinner at the Intercontinental Hotel tonight. Everyone must come. Wow, the Intercontinental. That's so expensive. Are you kidding? Jiang Ling is the young master of the Jiang family. What's a meal to him? Exactly. Jiang Ling is handsome, kind, and so capable in research. He's amazing. Amidst the continuous praise, a discordant message appeared. This experiment of Jiang Ling's. How is it exactly the same as Jiang Yao's? Could he have copied Jiang Yao's work? The speaker was a usually quiet girl. As soon as these words were spoken, the group chat fell silent. On the other side, Jiang Ling gripped his phone, his smile almost faltering. Sister, what should I do? Jiang Yao published his experimental results before, and everyone is suspecting that I copied him. Jiang Mingyue smiled indifferently. Don't worry, sister has already made preparations. An hour later, a post on the school website caused a huge stir. The poster uploaded Jiang Ling's lab journal, detailing all his experiences during the experiment over the past year. At the end of the post, Jiang Yao's name was directly mentioned, admonishing him to be honest and stating that plagiarism is shameful. The whole school was in an uproar. This news remained the top story in the department. Jiang Yao, the top student who had won scholarships for 3 consecutive years, had actually plagiarized someone else's experiment and even claimed the results as his own, publishing them first. Accusations and insults poured in from all directions. Jiang Yao walked dejectedly through the school, pointed at by passing students. He clearly heard the words they spoke. Plagiarist. He had worked so hard, only to end up being labeled a plagiarist. In a daze, Jiang Yao started running frantically around campus, as if he had gone mad. He shouted angrily, "I'm not a plagiarist. I didn't copy anyone's experimental results. I didn't do it. The results were originally mine." The more frantic he became, the more onlookers gathered. They surrounded him, their accusations rising in waves, completely drowning out his defense. Just then his phone vibrated. "Jiang Yao, this is the Academic Affairs Office. We have seen the post on the school website and have also interviewed your teachers and classmates, confirming that the post is true. Our school does not tolerate any plagiarism. We will be expelling you." On the day Jiang Yao returned to school to complete his withdrawal procedures, the school gate was crowded. There were students from the school and reporters with cameras and microphones. In just a few days, the online post had fermented across several nearby schools, and the accusation of plagiarism against Jiang Yao had been solidified. At the same time, Jiang Ling's experimental results, due to their groundbreaking nature, had attracted the attention of many prominent figures in academia and industry, and consequently, the media. Jiang Yao got out of the taxi wearing a mask, but someone still recognized him immediately. "Jiang Yao, do you have anything to say about the plagiarism accusations that have been spreading like wildfire these past few days? Even if you copied such groundbreaking experimental results, they're not your own. Why would you do such a thing? I heard you're the Jiang family's adopted son, and the true owner of the experimental results is your brother. Having done this, will the Jiang family still acknowledge you?" Jiang Yao, who had been trying to escape with his head down, stopped, turned around, and looked at the cameras with icy eyes. He slowly took off his mask. "I'll say this one last time. I did not plagiarize. And whether the Jiang family acknowledges me or not is irrelevant, because I will no longer acknowledge them." His words caused an uproar. At the same time, Jiang Fu quickly got out of a black minivan. He strode into the crowd and, in front of the reporters, students, and cameras, slapped Jiang Yao hard. "What nonsense are you spouting again?" Jiang Yao was knocked to the ground, but no one dared to help him. Jiang Fu looked at the cameras, his voice filled with indignation. "Today, in front of all our media friends, I want to tell you the truth. Jiang Yao is our adopted son. Since we brought him home from the orphanage, my family has always treated him like our own biological son, caring for him meticulously and loving him dearly. But from a young age, he's been unruly, unwilling to study, cheating on exams, and habitually lying. He never changed. Whether it was the middle school entrance exams, the college entrance exams, or various university exams, he relied on cheating to achieve excellent results. My wife and I saw this, and it pained us deeply. This time, he even stooped to plagiarizing his brother's experimental results just to satisfy his vanity. Such a wicked child doesn't deserve to be our son. I announce that, from today onwards, the Jiang family and Jiang Yao are no longer related." As soon as he finished speaking, insults erupted. Jiang Yao was surrounded by the crowd, feeling an overwhelming sense of oppression. From somewhere in the dense crowd, a full water bottle flew out, hitting Jiang Yao on the forehead and knocking him unconscious. An ambulance dispersed the commotion on campus. When Jiang Yao woke up, the ward was empty. Only his phone was vibrating incessantly. He endured the pain and picked up the phone beside the bed. He saw countless insulting text messages and notifications. His story had spread online. Now, everyone knew him as a wicked plagiarist, a heartless and ungrateful person. This time, Jiang Yao didn't even feel sad. He got out of bed expressionlessly, threw away his phone, and climbed, step by step, to the hospital roof. Standing on the edge, dozens of meters above the ground, Jiang Yao slowly released his grip, feeling the familiar wind one last time. "Hey Yao!" A familiar voice came from behind him, tinged with panic. Jiang Yao turned and saw Qian walking towards him. Jiang Yao had lost a lot of weight. Qian hadn't noticed until now. He stood on the high rooftop, as if a gust of wind could blow him away. Qian frowned, her voice laced with an indefinable emotion. "Hey Yao, come down quickly." She thought he would, like many times before, silently accept the olive branch she offered. But Jiang Yao smiled. He gently shook his head and looked at Qian with bewildered eyes. "Qian, was it you who gave my lab notes to Jiang Ling? And was it you who, together with the Jiang family, pressured the school, distorted the facts, and forced me to withdraw?" Qian froze for a moment, not answering, but Jiang Yao already knew the answer. "Hey Yao, don't think too much about it. Those things don't matter to you. No matter what, you're the Jiang family's son, and my fiancé. I'll compensate you for this later. Yao, don't be stubborn." If it had been before, hearing Qian acknowledge him like this, Jiang Yao would have cast aside all his sadness and returned to her side. But now, Jiang Yao clutched his chest, feeling pain in every part of his being. His face pale, he slowly crouched down, trying to embrace himself, to give himself the last bit of warmth. Qian seized the opportunity, stepped forward, and pulled him down from the ledge. Looking at Jiang Yao still huddled in the corner, Qian breathed a sigh of relief. She looked down at him, reproach in her voice. "Hey Yao, I know you're upset, but don't pull these extreme stunts. Aren't you doing this just to make us and Ailing feel guilty?" Jiang Yao didn't answer. He looked up at Qian as if she were a stranger. She couldn't see his efforts, his grievances, his pain. She attributed it all to Jiang Yao's willfulness, stubbornness, even his attention-seeking behavior. Jiang Yao realized he shouldn't waste his life on a stranger who didn't understand him at all. They didn't deserve it. Jiang Yao stood up and slowly walked downstairs. Qian, seeing him ignore her, felt a tightness in her chest and followed him. After turning a corner, Qian's phone rang. She glanced at it, her brow furrowed. After hesitating for a couple of seconds, she called out to Jiang Yao. "Hey Yao, I meant what I said. I'll compensate you." Before she could finish, Jiang Yao had already returned to his ward. Qian felt a dull ache in her heart, a sense of something slipping away. Jiang Ling sent several more WeChat messages. After a moment of hesitation, Qian left the hospital. Since Jiang Yao was angry now, she decided not to push it. It would be more effective to coax him after he calmed down. Hadn't it always been like this before? Having figured it out, Qian felt much better. Jiang Yao returned to his ward, quickly grabbed his identification documents, and headed straight for the airport. Before boarding the plane, Jiang Yao turned off his phone and threw it into an airport toilet. Goodbye to everything here. Qian went to the hospital the next day. The ward was familiar, but the face in the bed was completely strange. She rushed in and grabbed the person in the bed, asking, "Where's Jiang Yao?" The person was startled and quickly pressed the nurse call button. Medical staff arrived. "Ma'am, mister. Jiang Yao was discharged yesterday." Qian frowned. Where did he go? The nurse, unaware of her identity, glanced at her. Shouldn't his family know where a patient goes after leaving the hospital? Qian was momentarily speechless. She strode out of the hospital and drove towards the villa. On the way, she kept calling Jiang Yao, but all she heard was the cold beep of the dial tone. Qian floored the accelerator, her irritation reaching its peak. After all that had happened, Jiang Yao was still so immature. When he got home, she would definitely teach him a lesson. Familiar scenery flashed past, but Qian didn't know that in this city where she and Jiang Yao had lived for over 10 years, Jiang Yao's figure would never appear again. Qian quickly drove back to the villa, but it was eerily silent inside. She stopped the maid. "Where's Jiang Yao?" The maid was also confused. "Is it Mr. Jiang with you? He hasn't been back for a while. He paid us our wages and dismissed us. I'm leaving today too." Qian searched the entire villa, but there was no trace of Jiang Yao. She immediately flew into a rage and smashed a vase on the shelf. Jiang Yao was really something. First, he tried to get attention by jumping off a building, and now he was playing runaway. Night fell. In the bustling and noisy bar, Qian's booth was strangely quiet. Occasionally, handsome men would come to chat her up, but she wouldn't even bother to lift her eyelids. The manager would then come over and persuade them to leave. "Miss Qi, is there any other Miss Qi in Ning City? Go, she's in a bad mood these days. Don't poke the bear." Qian seemed oblivious, just holding her whiskey and downing one glass after another. She hadn't been able to contact Jiang Yao for a whole week. Later, she uncharacteristically sent him many messages, gently persuading him to come back, but she never received a reply. Uncontrollable frustration surged in her heart. Qian closed her eyes, but her mind was filled with the image of Jiang Yao squatting on the rooftop, hugging himself and smiling bitterly. Her heart began to ache. Another full glass of whiskey went down. Someone patted her left shoulder. Jiang Mingyue put her arm around Qian, looking her over. "What's wrong? The manager said you've been here drinking every day this week. Ling asked me about it too. Why aren't you replying to his messages?" After a moment, Qian shrugged off Jiang Mingyue's arm and poured her a drink. It's nothing. I'll call a Ling later and explain. Jiang Mingyue nodded, took a sip of her drink, and looked at Qian. Her state was really strange. Qian met her gaze, hesitated for a few seconds, and then spoke softly. Have you seen Jiang Yao? Who? Jiang Yao. Jiang Mingyue found it even stranger. She rarely heard Qian mention Jiang Yao. She thought Qian had long stopped caring about him. Jiang Yao is gone. I've been looking for him for a week, but I can't find him. Jiang Mingyue chuckled. Why are you looking for him? Don't you know his little tricks? He's just throwing a tantrum and playing disappearing, waiting for everyone to soften up before he shows up again. That guy, he's scheming. He's used to playing these little games. Qian frowned and said nothing, continuing to drink glass after glass. She had originally thought the same as Jiang Mingyue, but this time, it had been going on for too long. Looking at her like this, Jiang Mingyue felt a complicated mix of emotions. She had thought that Qian no longer liked Jiang Yao, which was why she had spoken so recklessly in front of him. But seeing her now, she must still care. But what about a Ling? A Ling liked Qian so much. It seemed she had to find a way to help a Ling. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Mingyue stood up. I came to remind you that tomorrow is a Ling's birthday. I know. Seeing Qian nod, Jiang Mingyue left. Before leaving, she added, drink less. Come early tomorrow. Qian ignored her. Late at night, Qian left the bar and went home alone. She took off her shoes and lay on the sofa dizzy. Subconsciously, she called out, a Yao, a Yao. The empty villa offered no response, and she realized that Jiang Yao hadn't returned. She stumbled into the kitchen. In the past, when she drank too much, Jiang Yao would always bring her a glass of honey water at the perfect temperature, and there would be warm millet porridge in the kitchen to soothe her stomach. But now, the kitchen was a mess. Used cups were still soaking in the sink, emitting a foul odor. Qian left the kitchen and went to the medicine cabinet to find medicine. All the medicines were neatly arranged, except for the box of stomach medicine she usually took. Qian felt an inexplicable sadness. Jiang Yao, you're really something. You're really dragging out this tantrum. The next day, Jiang Ling's birthday party, like last year's, was extravagantly decorated. Guests arrived early, offering him blessings and gifts. Qian was the last to arrive. Although she had showered, the lingering scent of alcohol clung to her, and her usual demeanor was replaced by a touch of derby. Jiang Ling hesitated for a moment, but still went up to her and affectionately took her hand. Sister Qian, you're finally here? I've been waiting for you for so long. Qian forced a smile. Sorry, Ailing, I've been busy these past few days and forgot to prepare a gift for you. Jiang Ling's mouth turned down, his eyes reddening with distress. Qian gently stroked his hand. Don't cry, Ailing, it's my fault. After the party, I'll take you to get a gift. Hearing this, Jiang Ling immediately smiled, looking at Qian with an unspoken affection in his eyes. The banquet began, glasses clinking. Jiang Ling, surrounded by everyone, was the center of attention. Jiang Mingyue raised her glass to toast him and nudged Qian beside her. Qian, let's wish Ailing a happy birthday together. Qian nodded woodenly, stood up, and raised her glass towards Jiang Ling. Happy birthday, Ailing. Jiang Mingyue winked at Jiang Ling. Ailing, make a birthday wish. Sister Qian will definitely fulfill it for you. Jiang Ling shyly lowered his head. Sister Qian, you've always known my feelings. This was a prearranged confession between Jiang Mingyue and Jiang Ling, planned for the birthday banquet. They knew Qian wouldn't refuse him in front of so many people. But before Jiang Ling could finish, Qian interrupted him. Ailing, I've always considered you a younger brother. My boyfriend is A Yao. Her voice wasn't loud. Only those nearby could hear, but Jiang Ling still felt incredibly embarrassed. He looked at Qian in disbelief. But Jiang Yao is already gone. No, A Yao is just angry. When he calms down, he will definitely come back, Qian stated firmly. Because of this little drama, the atmosphere at the main table became awkward. Jiang Ling's parents looked at Qian with displeasure, but due to the relationship between the two families, they couldn't openly express their anger, only offering earnest advice. Qian, you know, the engagement our families arranged since childhood was between you and Ailing. Later, when Ailing went missing, Jiang Yao had to take his place in the engagement. Now that Ailing is back, the engagement naturally should return to him. Besides, what's so good about that Jiang Yao? He's willful, behaves badly, and is nowhere near as good as our Ailing. The Jiang family often belittled Jiang Yao in front of Qian, and no one ever thought anything of it. But today, Qian found these words incredibly jarring. Jiang Yao had indeed made mistakes in the past, but he had been wronged in this plagiarism incident. If they continued to relentlessly bully him like this, Jiang Yao might not come back for a long time. Qian set down their wine glass and, meeting the expectant gazes of Jiang Yao's parents, slowly stood up. What's past is past. A Ling was wronged before, and now a Yao has been wronged. I will make it up to a Ling, and I will also take good care of a Yao. I hope everyone will refrain from saying these things in front of a Yao from now on. Qian's words were polite, but they exuded a sharp aura. It made the Jiang family realize that Qian was not only the relative they thought they knew, but also the sole heir of the Jiang family. Jiang Mingyue remained silent, and Jiang Yao's parents dared not say another word. Because of Qian's actions, Jiang Ling's birthday party turned completely cold. Although no one said anything outright, they all left quickly, one after another. Jiang Ling looked at the calm-faced Qian, feeling both anxious and angry, but dared not show it. After the party, Qian took Jiang Ling shopping for various luxury gifts. Jiang Ling couldn't quite grasp Qian's intentions, but was still happy with the expensive gifts. The next day, while showing off his new designer items to his classmates, Jiang Ling received a call summoning him to a meeting in the laboratory building. Since he had stolen Jiang Yao's experimental results, he had to make occasional appearances in the lab. What meeting? Why do I have to be here? He grumbled as he entered, only to be met with a cold stare. In the main seat of the conference room sat a girl with sharp features, a cold and noble air, who looked barely an adult. Yet, she wore a black suit, exuding a seriousness beyond her years. The professor announced that the young woman was Lin Shu, the representative of Madi Group, the largest biopharmaceutical group in the United States. She had returned to China to acquire their laboratory. Jiang Ling discreetly sized her up, wondering how someone so young could be a representative, when Lin Shu's gaze fell upon him. I heard that student Jiang Ling has achieved success in his experiment on molecular fission. This achievement is remarkable both domestically and internationally. I wonder, student Jiang, could you replicate it? Lin Shu's Mandarin wasn't perfect, but understandable. Before Jiang Ling could process how she knew his name, Lin Shu stood, gesturing him to replicate his experimental results. Their advisor tried to intervene, but was met with Lin Shu's icy glare. Despite her young age, she exuded a chilling aura. Reproducibility is fundamental for any experimental result to gain recognition. Do you want your entire lab accused of academic fraud? Silenced, the advisor watched helplessly as Lin Shu's bodyguards dragged Jiang Ling to the lab bench. Jiang Ling knew he couldn't reproduce the results and tried to refuse, but Lin Shu coldly warned him. If you can't reproduce the results, it proves your academic fraud. The media is downstairs. Everything you put others through will come back to you. Left with no choice, Jiang Ling shakily put on gloves, picked up a test tube, and began operating based on guesswork. His fumbling made the process excruciatingly slow. News of the lab incident spread. Qian rushed in to find a girl in black gripping Jiang Ling's hand, demanding, "You don't even know the basic order of adding reagents, and you dare claim this is your work? You, Jiang Ling?" Lin Shu turned, her gaze sharp, and addressed the advisor. "And you all colluded to steal Jiang Yao's research. You're all accomplices to fraud." Everyone was stunned by Lin Shu's force. The obese advisor trembled and collapsed into a chair, knowing he was doomed. Qian, usually calm and composed, rushed in and grabbed Lin Shu's shoulder, anxiously asking, "Do you know Jiang Yao? Did he send you? Where is he?" Lin Shu coldly brushed her hand off. "Where he is none of your business. You only need to know he won't be coming back." Qian paled, as if struck. She shook her head in disbelief. "Impossible. How do you know Jiang Yao? Who are you to him?" Lin Shu looked at the haughty Qian with disdain. When her brother was here, she treated him like dirt. Now that he was gone, she seemed to care. This woman didn't deserve her brother. A mocking smile curved Lin Shu's lips. "Who I am isn't important. What matters is I'll make you pay for what you did to Jiang Yao, bit by bit." Lin Shu turned to leave. Qian tried to follow, but was stopped by Jiang Ling, who grabbed her arm, panicked. "Sister Qian, what do I do? That person said the media is downstairs. She'll do to me what happened to Jiang Yao. She's after me. I'm scared. I don't want to go down." Qian pushed him away, preoccupied. Soon, reporters swarmed in. Lin Shu had not only bought the building, but also become the school's largest shareholder. Following her instructions, reporters bombarded Jiang Ling with questions about the experiment. He cowered, unable to answer. The headlines that day screamed, "Jiang family's son fabricates research, frames adopted son." Reporters unearthed the Jiang family's carefully buried secrets, exposing their hypocrisy, favoritism, and recklessness. Jiang Ling was publicly shamed wherever he went, utterly humiliated. He ended up hiding in a bathroom, waiting for his family. The driver took him home. Jiang Ling burst into tears upon entering. Meanwhile, Jiang's father almost had a heart attack reading the news. Jiang's mother shrieked for his medication. Cries and screams filled the house, chaos reigning. Jiang Mingyue entered with a stack of documents, her face grim. "I found out. Lin Shu is the daughter of the CEO of the Medi Group. The chairman and his wife are Chinese. There are rumors they found their long-lost son. It's Jiang Yao. How is that possible?" Jiang Ling snatched the photo from Jiang Mingyue. A happy family of four smiled back at him. Jiang Yao stood in the middle, flanked by Lin Shu and an elegant couple, presumably the Medi Group's chairman and his wife. Jiang Ling's face twisted with envy. Jiang Mingyue, ignoring him, reported to her recovered father. "More importantly, Lin Shu is buying our company's stock. After today's news, our stock plummeted. Medi Group is powerful. At this rate, they'll swallow us whole." Jiang's mother paced, filled with regret. "How could this happen? How is Jiang Yao the chairman's son? We treated him so badly. He must have sent his sister for revenge." Jiang's father felt a surge in his chest, a metallic taste in his throat. He swallowed it, closed his eyes, and made a difficult decision. Mingyue, find out where Lin Shu lives. We'll go apologize to her personally. At the door of the top-floor luxury suite, the 4 members of the Jiang family stood neatly, their eyes red and swollen, their faces pale. After waiting for half an hour, the suite door finally opened. They immediately put on a fawning, fake smile. Miss Lin, we came here today to explain some things to you about your brother, Jiang Yao. Lin Shu reminded them impassively. I remember Mr. Jiang publicly announced to the media that he was cutting ties with my brother. So, his name is now Lin Yao, and he has nothing to do with the Jiang family anymore. Father Jiang choked for a moment, and the faces of the people behind him became even uglier. But he still forced a smile and bowed deeply to Lin Shu. I'm sorry, Miss Lin. At that time, we didn't know he was the Lin family's son. We made him suffer. We are truly sorry. Lin Shu glared at them, and they couldn't help but tremble. Oh, you could bully him just because you didn't know he was the Lin family's son? I don't understand. Mr. Jiang, what was your original purpose when you adopted him? Did you treat him as a toy to vent your emotions on? Or as a living person? Lin Shu's words were sharp, almost pointing at their noses and calling them social climbers and snobs. Father Jiang knew he had misspoken. I'm sorry, Miss Lin. I admit, after finding our biological son, Jiang Ling, we wanted to make up for the years of neglect towards him. So, we neglected Jiang Yao, no Lin Yao. But Miss Lin, please understand our hearts as parents. We just want to love our own son. We haven't done anything wrong. Besides, we raised Lin Yao and paid for his university education. Even if we don't deserve credit, we've put in the effort. Please be merciful and don't make things difficult for us anymore. Listening to Father Jiang's explanation, the sarcasm on Lin Shu's face deepened. Mr. Jiang, is the so-called effort you speak of treating him as someone else's substitute since childhood, beating and scolding him, and demanding that he grow up to look exactly like your biological son? Can the Jiang family not afford to raise 2 sons? Why did you have to make things difficult for my brother after your biological son returned, and make him give up everything he earned through his hard work to someone else? After my brother returned home, our whole family loved him very much, but my parents never asked me to give anything up for my brother, because they know that love is not about sacrificing one person for another. You never treated my brother as your own son. You adopted him just to satisfy your own selfish desires. You are not worthy of being his parents. As soon as she finished speaking, Mother Jiang covered her mouth and sobbed. She wanted to say it wasn't like that. At the orphanage, there were more than 10 children standing in a row, and she saw Jiang Yao at a glance. He was so hardworking and sensible, never causing any trouble. But Mother Jiang couldn't say it. Her mind was filled with scenes of herself berating and insulting Jiang Yao. The door closed, and Father Jiang lowered his head, ashamed. The other members of the Jiang family also had complex expressions. Lin Shu looked very angry. She definitely wouldn't let the Jiang family off the hook. They hesitated at the door, but couldn't think of any other solution. Inside, Qian stood around the corner and heard everything Lin Shu said to the Jiang family. Her expression was complex. Lin Shu's words seemed to be scolding her as well. Lin Shu glanced at her, coldly dismissing her. Miss Qi, I told you my brother isn't here. Qian looked up at her, with a faint plea in her eyes. Where is he? Let me see him. Lin Shu looked at the woman in front of her and remained silent for a long time. While in the United States, her brother had told her what had happened in the country. She was determined to protect her brother and never let these people from their past bother him again. But this Qian, she had been squatting downstairs at her hotel for several days, constantly begging to see her brother. Perhaps they really needed to see each other one more time to truly put an end to the past. Thinking this, Lin Shu nodded. But I can only take you to him. Whether he wants to see you or not is up to him. Lin Shu took Qian onto a private jet bound for the United States. Qian's expression was complex as they boarded. Once on the plane, surrounded by extravagant decor, she grew increasingly restless. Qian had grown up pampered. In Ning City, the Qi family's word was law. But this sense of superiority seemed insignificant in front of Lin Shu. And what about Yao? What kind of life was he living now? For the first time in her life, Qian, the proud daughter of heaven, felt a flicker of self-doubt. After a long flight, the plane landed on a private airstrip in California's Bay Area. An impeccably dressed butler bowed respectfully to them. A chauffeur drove a limited-edition Rolls-Royce through the exorbitantly priced castle estate, delivering them to the garden where Lin Yao was. The garden was filled with tulips, their fragrance carried by a gentle breeze. Lin Yao sat on a swing, cradling a cat, lazily basking in the sun. Beside him, the chairman of the multi-billion-dollar Maddie Group was personally grinding coffee for him. The elegant chairman's wife was feeding her son homemade cookies. Bathed in sunlight, Lin Yao's smile was handsome and bright, eclipsing even the blooming tulips around him. Qian stared at the scene, speechless. Yao. How long had it been since she had seen him? How long since she had seen such a smile on his face? Qian's heart swelled with a mixture of joy and excitement, a smile mirroring his own appearing on her face. She smoothed her clothes and strode forward. Perhaps Yao's status had changed, but his core remained the same. The Yao who had loved her for 11 years. Yao. Qian called out to him in her gentlest voice. As he looked up, she reached him, opening her arms for an embrace. Lin Yao instinctively stepped back, avoiding her hug. Qian's hand froze in midair, her smile frozen on her face. Lin Yao looked at the familiar yet strange person in front of him, stunned for a moment. He thought he would never see her again. Lin Shu left with Lin Yao's parents. They believed Lin Yao was capable of handling everything. Only Lin Yao and Qian remained in the large garden. He sat back on the swing, absent-mindedly stroking the cat in his lap, his expression indifferent. Qian spoke to him in a gentle tone she had never used before. "Hey Yao, I miss you so much. Don't leave without a word like that again. I'll worry. You can tell me wherever you want to go, whoever you want to see. I'll go with you." If this were the Jiang Yao of the past, faced with such a heartfelt appeal, he would have already burst into tears and embraced her. But now Lin Yao just sneered. "Qian, your affection feels fake. Have you forgotten what happened in the past?" Hearing him bring up the past, Qian knew he was still angry. After a moment of hesitation, she lowered her head and apologized. "I'm sorry, Yao. It was my fault. I know you were wronged. I neglected your feelings before. Please forgive me." Lin Yao found it laughable. A simple, light apology, and she thought she could erase the hurt she had caused him. In her heart, his love and forgiveness seemed to be things she was entitled to. Lin Yao looked at her seriously, his eyes cold, as if looking at a stranger. "Qian, do you think that as long as you apologize, I will forgive you? As long as you lower yourself to come find me, I will hesitate to go back with you? As long as you say you love me, I can disregard the past, forget everything that happened, and just like the past 11 years, follow closely behind you?" Qian was stunned for a moment, not saying a word, but the answer was obvious. Lin Yao smiled faintly. "Qian, I once thought I would love you forever. It was your indifference that slowly extinguished my love for you. When I had a high fever at home alone, you didn't care. When I soaked in the icy pool for 4 hours, you didn't care. When everything I had was taken away, you didn't care. When I was condemned by everyone and lost the will to live, you still didn't care. You only cared about everything related to Jiang Ling. Now I'm tired. I choose to withdraw and let you two be together. Don't bother me anymore." The past flashed before her eyes, and Qian felt as if struck by lightning. She finally realized that she seemed to have hurt Yao many times. Overwhelmed by guilt and regret, she gently shook her head, wanting to explain to him, but panic made her words incoherent. "No, Yao, I do care about you. You're my boyfriend. How could I not care about you?" Lin Yao curled his lip, his expression full of mockery, as if he knew that even she didn't believe her own words. Under his gaze, Qian lowered her head in shame, forcing herself to speak. "I'm sorry, Yao, I was wrong. I know I did so many stupid things and hurt you. But we have 11 years of history together. Please, give me another chance, okay?" Lin Yao gently shook his head, casually plucking a tulip. "Qian, I plucked this flower, taking its life, and then I say I'm sorry. Do you think it can come back to life?" The tulip fell to the ground, scattering its petals. Lin Yao stepped inside, but Qian was still unwilling to give up. "Yao, is it because you're the Lin family's son now that you look down on me? The one who's been with you for 11 years? Lin Yao found her words laughable. From beginning to end, Qian had never truly understood him. "Qian, you're the one who trampled on my sincerity. Regardless of whose son I am, you don't deserve my love anymore." Lin Yao threw down these words and left without looking back. Qian stumbled, gripping the swaying swing to steady herself. Her nose burned, and 1,000 emotions churned within her. Yao, he was truly different now. Not just his status, but his feelings for her seemed different too. This realization frightened Qian. The time Yao had been gone made her realize she had long grown accustomed to a life with him. No matter who he was now, she couldn't let him leave her. With this thought, Qian stayed in California. At a luxury watch auction, the moment Lin Yao entered the venue, he felt a burning gaze. He followed it and saw Qian, stunning in a formal dress. Bored at the auction, Lin Yao casually raised his paddle once, not paying attention to the item on stage. Amidst the rising bids, Qian calmly stood and made the point the sky lantern gesture, signaling an unlimited bid. In the end, she won the watch, one of only 3 in the world, at 10 times the market price. After the auction, she walked to Lin Yao, holding the watch with a hint of apprehension. "Yao, the host said this emerald watch symbolizes letting go and hope. I'm giving it to you, so we can let go of the past and start over, okay?" Her eyes were bright, sparkling with hope, gazing at him earnestly. In that light, Lin Yao saw his own reflection, as if he were the only shining star in her eyes. His heart skipped a beat. Lin Yao turned his head away, blinking rapidly. He knew that his past self, seeing Qian like this, would have been moved to kiss and embrace her, forgetting all the hurt. But now, the pain had seeped into his bones, making him wary and afraid of any further vulnerability. Lin Yao took a deep breath and regained his composure. "Miss Qi," he addressed her with marked distance. "You misunderstand. I don't like this watch. The past pain is life experience. I have nothing to let go of. I'm doing fine. It's you, Miss Qi, who should understand your own heart. What's lost isn't always the most important. Think carefully about what you truly care about and stop disturbing my life. With that, Lin Yao left without looking back, leaving Qian alone in the vast venue. The words "what you truly care about" echoed in her mind. Qian wanted to say, "I care about you, Yao," but it seemed it was already too late. Qian's tourist visa was about to expire, and she hadn't seen Lin Yao again. The day before her return to China, she ran to the Lin family estate, hoping to see him one last time. A thunderstorm raged outside. Lin Yao stood by the window, watching the heavy rain in the dark night. Lin Shu handed him a glass of red wine. He took a large gulp. Another flash of lightning illuminated half the night sky. His heart tightened. "Hasn't she left yet?" Lin Shu shook her head. "No, she keeps saying she wants to see you again. Nothing we say works." Lin Yao curled his lip, feeling a sense of irony. A few months ago, on a similarly stormy night, she had locked him out in the rain to force him to give his postgraduate recommendation to Jiang Ling. Now, everything was reversed. Imagine, someone once within reach. Only after they leave, do you start to regret, start to cherish. Is this love, or just unwillingness to accept? Lin Yao murmured, unsure if he was asking himself or Lin Shu. Lin Shu gave a cynical laugh. Whatever the reason, it's her own fault. Lin Yao closed his eyes and waved his hand at Lin Shu. "Get rid of her. I won't see her." The black Rolls-Royce drove out of the estate and stopped in front of Qian. Her haute couture dress was soaked, and she looked utterly disheveled. The car door opened. She moved forward 2 steps with stiff limbs. The smile she had forced onto her face froze the moment she saw Lin Shu. "Where's Yao?" She couldn't believe Yao would be so cruel as to refuse to even see her. "Leave. He won't see you." Lin Shu's voice was cold. The person who had stood ramrod straight for the past few hours suddenly crumpled, staggering back 2 steps. "Why? Won't he even give me a chance?" Her voice was hoarse. "When you locked him out in the rain and forced him to give in, did you show him any mercy?" Lin Shu sneered. Another flash of lightning illuminated the sky, and Qian swayed. Lin Shu felt no sympathy for the pathetic woman before her. "If you don't leave now, I'll make sure you can never come to America again." With that, the Rolls-Royce turned and drove back into the estate. Qian finally collapsed, clutching a nearby tree for support. Rain mixed with tears streamed down her face. She tasted the saltiness, and her heart ached with a dull, persistent pain. At this moment, she finally realized that her Yao might truly never forgive her. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, a storm of a different kind was brewing in the Jiang family villa. While Zhang's father, mother, and Jiang Mingyue were busy dealing with the company's crisis, 2 plainly dressed middle-aged people entered the Jiang villa. Jiang Ling's face darkened when he saw them. "What are you doing here?" The woman eagerly grabbed his hand. "Son, why haven't you been answering our calls or sending us money lately? I saw on the news that the Jiang family is going bankrupt. Seize this last chance to grab some money and come home with Mom and Dad." Jiang Ling brushed her hand away with disgust. "The Jiang family's finances are tight right now. I don't have any extra money to give you. Let me tell you, a skinny camel is still bigger than a horse. The Jiang family treats me well. Even if they go bankrupt, they won't let me suffer. I'm warning you. Don't come here looking for me again. I don't want to see you." As soon as Jiang Ling finished speaking, the sound of shattering glass came from the study. Before Jiang Ling could react, the study door was flung open. His father, mother, and older sister, Jiang Mingyue, stared at him, their eyes burning with uncontainable rage. He jumped, stammering, "Dad, Mom, sister, what are you doing home?" They had planned to go to the company, but Jiang Ling's father felt slightly unwell, so Jiang Mingyue had brought the documents back home. Unexpectedly, they overheard Jiang Ling's carefully concealed secret. Unable to control her emotions, Jiang Ling's mother stormed towards him, gripping his arm tightly. "Who are they? Why are they calling you son? What's this about getting money? What do you mean?" "No, it's not like that, Mom. Let me explain." Jiang Ling's lower lip trembled, his eyes reddening. In the past, whenever he misbehaved, this act would soften his mother's heart. But this time, no matter how much he played the victim, his mother remained unmoved, her grip on his wrist unwavering. "Mom, don't look at me like that. I'm scared." Jiang Ling struggled, but his mother ignored him. The middle-aged man, who had been silent until now, suddenly rushed forward and shoved Jiang Ling's mother to the ground. "What are you doing grabbing my son?" "Bah, the news was right. Your Jiang family really is rotten. I shouldn't have sent my son here for your money, letting you ruin him." He pulled Jiang Ling's hand and started to leave. "Come on, son, let's go home. We won't play with them anymore. The Jiang family is going bankrupt anyway. There's no need for us to pretend to be their son anymore." The words "pretend to be their son" sent the Jiang family into a frenzy. They completely lost control. Jiang Ling's father helped his mother up, while Jiang Mingyue blocked the middle-aged couple. They shoved and cursed each other, the scene descending into chaos. Half an hour later, the police arrived. After understanding the situation, they took them to the hospital for a paternity test. The results showed that Jiang Ling was not related to the Jiang family. He was indeed the son of the middle-aged couple. The middle-aged man spat. "I told you, and you didn't believe me. Idiots, your son was taken by organ traffickers. He's probably long dead." The Jiang family finally learned that when the real Jiang Ling was abducted by human traffickers, This couple had been witnesses. At that time, there had been many child abduction cases in their area, rumored to be orchestrated by a vicious organ trafficking ring. They hadn't dared to report it to the police and had picked up a jade thumb ring that the real Jiang Ling had dropped during a struggle. Years later, they saw the missing person notices that the Jiang family continuously published. For money, they sent their own son to the Jiang family, having him impersonate Jiang Ling. Because the fake Jiang Ling could clearly recount the events of the day he was abducted and produce the jade thumb ring, the Jiang family had no suspicions and accepted him without a second thought, completely forgetting about a paternity test.
As Jiang Ling gradually grew accustomed to the comfortable life of a wealthy young master, he wanted to sever ties with his biological parents. He stopped accepting their threats and stopped giving them money. The impatient couple then came to the house directly, revealing the truth. Upon learning the truth, Jiang Ling's mother clutched her chest and collapsed. Jiang Ling's father, consumed by rage, snatched a scalpel from a nurse and lunged at the fake Jiang Ling. "You bastard! How dare you deceive me? You came to my house with ulterior motives and turned our lives upside down. My ailing is gone, my Yao is gone, I'm going to kill you." Jiang Fu stabbed the fake Jiang Ling. Although the wound wasn't fatal, he committed the crime in front of the police, which was egregious, and he was immediately arrested. By the time Qian returned to the country, the news about the Jiang family's real and fake young master had already become a hot topic. Qian felt somewhat dazed. Jiang Ling was a fake, so were the conflicts between him and Yao real or fake? Eager to know the answer, Qian had someone find the fake Jiang Ling's address and went there. In the dim alleyway, the fake Jiang Ling was directing his biological mother to work. "Here, clean it up properly. What's wrong with you? Can't you even do this small task? The Jiang family's maids are better than you. And what kind of food is this? It's disgusting. I want seafood." The woman was stunned by his yelling. After a while, she finally couldn't help but reply, "Son, this is all we can afford. You're not the Jiang family's young master anymore, so don't be so picky." Enraged, the fake Jiang Ling threw down a cup and pointed at her, cursing, "Old woman, what nonsense are you talking about? If it weren't for you, would I be like this? I'm telling you, when Qian comes back, she will definitely take me away. The Qi family, you know? They're even richer than the Jiang family." The woman was uncertain. "Son, are you telling the truth? That Qi something, will she give you money?" The fake Jiang Ling folded his arms with an arrogant air. "Of course. She's not like the Jiang family. She won't care about my identity. After all, I'm not related to her by blood. She's so easy to fool. She believes everything I say. She'll get me anything I want, no matter what. It'll be the same this time. Just wait, I'll go to the Qi family tomorrow and wait for her." With a creak, the dilapidated wooden door was pushed open. A woman in black stood at the entrance, exuding an intimidating aura, like an Azura. "Sister Qian." The fake Jiang Ling froze for a moment, then immediately changed his tone. In the next instant, the bodyguards behind Qian rushed in and dragged him out. In the narrow alley, rainwater mixed with sewage, giving off a foul smell. The fake Jiang Ling was held by the neck and forced to look at Qian. Qian's eyes were icy as she asked him word by word, "What did you lie to me about?" The fake Jiang Ling was still struggling. "Sister Qian, don't do this, I'm scared." Qian didn't answer. With a single look, the bodyguards tightened their grip. The fake Jiang Ling was terrified and begged for mercy. "I was wrong, I'll talk, let me go." Qian raised her hand, and the fake Jiang Ling was released. He stumbled back a few steps, looking at the strange and crazed woman in front of him. "I admit, I lied to you. The car accident wasn't caused by Jiang Yao. I planned it myself. The purpose was to get you all to focus your attention on me. And many things that happened afterward were deliberately planned by me. Jiang Yao didn't do anything to me. It was me who kept framing him." Seeing Qian's eyes grow darker and darker, the fake Jiang Ling trembled. "I'm sorry, I know I was wrong. Please let me go. I won't dare to do it again." Hearing such an answer with her own ears, Qian wasn't surprised, only amused. The fake Jiang Ling was ridiculous, the Jiang family was ridiculous, and she herself was even more ridiculous. She had known Yao for 11 years, yet when there was a conflict between him and someone else, she chose to believe the other person without hesitation. She was clearly the person who knew Yao best, yet she never gave him trust, respect, or understanding. Qian's eyes reddened. She wished she could stare a hole through Jiang Ling. Killing intent radiated from her. At this moment, she finally understood how terribly wrong she had been. Fake Jiang Ling, frightened by Qian's frenzy, didn't dare speak to her again and stumbled away. Qian stood in the rain, the anger and pain in her eyes lingering. She knew she was going crazy, but she had already lost her beloved Yao, and nothing else mattered anymore. Half a month later, fake Jiang Ling's biological father, tempted by others, became addicted to gambling. Their already impoverished family, burdened by enormous gambling debts, was on the verge of collapse. Facing the bottomless pit of his family's situation, fake Jiang Ling wanted to escape, but there was no chance. He worked tirelessly every day to earn money, his once soft and pampered hands, now covered in blisters. But the money he earned was only a drop in the bucket compared to his father's gambling debts. Later, debt collectors came to their door, and his father knocked him unconscious, handing him over like merchandise. When he woke up again, his mouth was gagged, his hands and feet bound, and he was on a train heading to Southeast Asia. The scenery of his homeland gradually changed and disappeared before his eyes. Exhausted, fake Jiang Ling closed his eyes, tears of despair streaming down his face. He knew what awaited him. He regretted it, but it was already too late. Meanwhile, in a hospital ward, Mother Jiang lay in bed, withered and pale, her eyes swollen from crying. Jiang Mingyue hurried in from outside, carrying a lunchbox, her shirt wrinkled and her body thin. Mother Jiang struggled to sit up, grabbed her hand, and anxiously asked, "How was it? Did you see Qian? Is she willing to help save your father?" Jiang Mingyue touched her face and shook her head helplessly. Her face still throbbed with pain where Qian had hit her. Father Jiang had been detained for a month, and the prosecution would begin next month. She had consulted a lawyer. Intentional injury carried a minimum sentence of 5 years. Father Jiang was old, and she couldn't bear to see him suffer in prison. She had spent all their family's savings, begging everyone for help. Former friends and relatives treated her like a plague, not only refusing to help but also unwilling to even see her. In desperation, Jiang Mingyue went to the Qi family. Qian did open the door, but the look in her eyes was utterly unfamiliar. These two sisters, who had grown up together, had become people who loathed each other. After hearing Jiang Mingyue's plea, Qian coldly gave a forward reply, "You reap what you sow." Jiang Mingyue was instantly enraged and grabbed her arm. "Qian, my parents practically raised you. How can you say such cruel things?" Qian met her gaze without flinching. "Isn't it true? You've been bad to Yao since he was little. He was forced to learn things he didn't like, practiced the piano until his fingers cramped, yet never received a word of praise from you. When he grew up, you arrogantly assumed that everything he had was given by you, to be taken away or discarded at will. You never truly loved or respected him, but you held a scheming fake Jiang Ling in high regard. Do you know? Yao never harmed fake Jiang Ling. Everything was orchestrated by fake Jiang Ling, and you fell into his trap, torturing Yao relentlessly. You are so vicious and narrow-minded, don't you reap what you sow?" The most hurtful words, spoken by her best friend, made Jiang Mingyue tremble with anger. She shouted, "You talk about us, but are you any better, Qian?" Qian, who had also been suppressing her emotions, refused to endure any longer. She raised her hand and slapped Jiang Mingyue. The two fought, and Jiang Mingyue, exhausted from days of running around, was no match for Qian. She was slapped repeatedly and thrown out of the villa. Seeing the redness and swelling on her daughter's face, Mother Jiang guessed what had happened. Jiang Mingyue choked out the truth she learned from Qian. "Mom, Yao never made things difficult for anyone. We misunderstood him." Hearing this, Mother Jiang covered her face and wailed, "We misunderstood Yao, we hurt him. It's all our fault." In the detention center, Jiang Mingyue supported her mother, Jiang Mu, and waited for a long time. Finally, she saw a shuffling figure, led by a prison guard, walk out. She could hardly believe that the hunched old man in front of her was her father. Jiang Fu's hair was gray and white, he had lost a lot of weight, and there were some bruises on his face. Upon seeing this, Jiang Mu burst into tears, reaching out through the glass to hold Jiang Fu's hand, but she couldn't reach him. Jiang Mingyue choked up and picked up the phone. "Dad, are you okay? Why are you so thin? Did someone bully you?" Jiang Fu held the phone and gently shook his head. Looking at his wife and daughter across from him, his heart ached. In just over a month, their family had fallen apart. Everything started with them wronging Yao. Tears streamed down Jiang Fu's face, filled with regret. "It's all my fault, it's me, I hurt Yao, and I hurt you too." Jiang Mu and Jiang Mingyue both shed tears upon hearing this, their hearts filled with regret. If they had treated Yao well from the beginning, even if they hadn't found their biological son, their lives wouldn't have become like this. The prison guard came forward to remind them that visiting time was almost over. Jiang Mingyue gripped the phone and anxiously said, "Dad, take care of yourself, I will find a way to get you out." Jiang Fu shook his head helplessly. "Mingyue, don't worry about me, this is all my fault." If you have the chance, apologize to Yao on my behalf. We should all apologize to him. We wronged him. Jiang Fu was taken away. Jiang Mu cried until she almost fainted. Seeing her complexion worsen, Jiang Mingyue didn't dare delay and took her to the hospital. When she woke up again, Jiang Mu looked at Jiang Mingyue with tearful eyes. Mingyue, we must apologize to Yao. We were wrong. Jiang Mingyue held her hand and nodded firmly. Mom, why don't we call Yao again? Although we have wronged him, we did live together for more than 10 years. If he knows you're sick, he will soften. As long as he is willing to help, all our problems will be solved. Hope flickered in Jiang Mu's eyes, but she was also uncertain. Will it work? Jiang Mingyue held her hand and encouraged her. It will, Mom. Let's try. Yao's old phone number had long been disconnected. Jiang Mingyue had to go through many people to finally get his new number from his college roommate. The call went through, ringing for a long time before someone answered. Hello? A familiar voice came from the receiver. Jiang Mu's nose tingled, and tears instantly fell. Yao. She choked out, it's Mom. How are you? Lin Yao paused for a moment, then dropped the politeness from his voice and coldly replied, My mother is the chairman's wife of the McD Group, Mrs. Jiang. Please don't mistake me. Jiang Mu's heart ached at his icy tone. She pressed her hand to her chest and said tremblingly, Yao, about the past, we were wrong. We know we were wrong. Yao, things are very difficult at home now. Your father has had an accident, and Mom is sick. The doctor said I might not have much time left. For the sake of me taking care of you for over 10 years, will you come back and see me? There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Jiang Mingyue and Jiang Mu looked at each other nervously, afraid that Yao would hang up the next second. After a long time, Lin Yao finally spoke, I will transfer a sum of money to your account as settlement for the years of upbringing. Don't forget, Mr. Jiang himself said that I have nothing to do with the Jiang family anymore. The call disconnected. Jiang Mu finally lost control, covering her face in wailing. She had lost her biological son, and now she had lost the son she had raised for over 10 years. They wouldn't come back. She had nothing left. She pounded her chest, fist after fist, hating herself for all the foolish things she had done. Jiang Mingyue grabbed her hand, stopping her self-destructive actions, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Mom, listen. I think there's still a chance. What? Jiang Mu looked up, her eyes blurred with tears. Mom, I just received the money Io transferred to us, a full 10 million. Who gives 10 million for child support? He must be using child support as an excuse to help us through this difficult time. Didn't you hear him still dwelling on what Dad said? That means he still cares about us. I told you, Io isn't heartless. As long as we sincerely apologize, coupled with our current predicament, he will definitely soften. Jiang Mu wiped her tears and glanced at the balance in her bank card. She thought Jiang Mingyue had a point. They had no idea that, for Jiang Yao now, 10 million was mere pocket money. Hope flickered in Jiang Mu's eyes. She hurriedly grabbed Jiang Mingyue's hand. Mingyue, we have to apologize to Io, in the most sincere way possible. We'll find the media, explain everything that happened in the past, and clear Io's name. Then you fly to America. No matter what it takes, kneeling, kowtowing, you must beg for Io's forgiveness. His biological parents control a massive conglomerate. As long as he puts in a good word for your father, he'll definitely be spared from prison, and our Jiang family can rise again. Jiang Mingyue nodded vigorously, as if she could already see that day. Don't worry, Mom. I'll make sure Io feels our sincerity, she said firmly. 2 days later, on a rainy day, Jiang Mingyue boarded a plane to America. Her heart was filled with hope as she repeatedly rehearsed what she would say to Jiang Yao. Although she had written her lines in advance, her regret was genuine. Especially after learning that the younger brother she had favored for so long was an imposter, a chill ran through Jiang Mingyue. Lately, she had been dreaming of her regret, regretting why she hadn't chosen to trust Jiang Yao more. He had been so kind and sensible. With these thoughts, Jiang Mingyue fell asleep on the plane. She dreamed of the whole family celebrating Jiang Yao's birthday, a scene of happiness. The beautiful dream was shattered by violent shaking. Jiang Mingyue felt the entire plane tremble violently. The flight attendant's trembling voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, our aircraft has been struck by lightning and the power system is damaged. Please fasten your seatbelts, put on your oxygen masks, and await further instructions. Jiang Mingyue's heart began to race. Her vision quickly faded to black, and in the darkness, she felt the despair of weightlessness. Before losing consciousness completely, Jiang Mingyue silently thought, I'm sorry. I may never have the chance to apologize to you in person. News of a commercial airliner crashing after being struck by lightning en route from Ning City to California quickly spread worldwide. All 163 passengers perished. Lin Yao happened to receive a video from a university classmate just as he saw the news. Unaware that Jiang Mingyue was on that flight, he dismissed the news and opened the video. In the video, Jiang Mingyue and her mother bowed repeatedly to the camera. They said they had been deceived by a villain and had wrongly accused their son, Jiang Yao. They said Jiang Yao had never harmed anyone, cheated on exams, or plagiarized research. Jiang Yao was a diligent, kind, and sincere young man. Messages popped up one after another. Hey Yao, are you feeling any less angry? Sigh, they were also deceived. It's all the fake Jiang Ling's fault. The school forum is exploding with this news. Everyone knows you've been cleared and wants to apologize for what they said before. Lin Yao gently typed on his phone screen, it's all in the past. It's fine. He said it was fine, but his heart still ached. The suffocating, painful experiences felt like yesterday. No matter how magnanimous he tried to be, he couldn't truly forgive the Jiang family. Never seeing them again for the rest of his life was probably the best outcome for them all. In the garden, Ling Shu glanced at her phone and then at Lin Yao inside the house. Should we tell brother that the Jiang family's daughter was on that plane? Her mother shook her head. There's no need. Love or hate, it's all in the past. There's no need to let him know. At a hospital across the ocean, Mother Jiang stared at the ward door from morning till night, hoping to see Jiang Mingyue and Jiang Yao. Her phone rang. She answered, and the airline's somber voice came through. Madam, we regret to inform you that your daughter, Jiang Mingyue, perished in the plane crash. Mother Jiang couldn't believe her ears and asked again in a trembling voice. Moments later, a heart-wrenching wail erupted from the ward, my child. The heart monitor blared, and doctors and nurses rushed into the room. The patient is emotionally overwhelmed and has lost consciousness. Take her to the emergency room. Only a handful of people attended the funeral held by the airline for Jiang Mingyue. Qian, dressed in black, entered the funeral home. Looking at the familiar face in the black and white photo, her emotions surged. Lately, she'd been having nightmares, dreaming of Yao, Jiang Mingyue, Uncle Jiang, and Aunt Jiang. Once, she had considered them her closest friends and family. Now, everything had changed. The Jiang family's company had completely gone bankrupt. Father Jiang was sentenced to 5 years for intentional assault. Jiang Mingyue's body was never recovered, and Mother Jiang had become mentally unstable after being unable to cope with the news of her daughter's death. Qian felt that it was all retribution. Yao had been driven to his breaking point by them, standing on the rooftop, ready to jump and end his young life. Now, one by one, those who had hurt Yao were receiving their punishment. Qian wondered if she would be next. She was afraid, apprehensive, but most of all, filled with regret. After returning from the United States, Qian struggled to adjust to life without Yao. As each day passed, her longing and care for him only intensified, suffocating her. Unwilling to let go, Qian decided to fight for their relationship. She applied to graduate school in the US, hoping to be closer to Yao, to constantly appear before him, and make him feel her care, just as he had always been by her side. Perhaps, she thought, he would eventually soften. On her first day in the US, Qian went to Yao's university. He had changed his major but was still studying at a top-tier institution. Seeing Qian, Lin Yao was momentarily stunned. Everything that happened in Ning City felt like a distant memory, so distant that he had almost forgotten her face. He continued smiling and talking with his friends, ignoring her outstretched hand as he brushed past her, like two strangers on campus. A wave of disappointment washed over Qian. Her hand froze in midair, and her heart felt hollow. She didn't give up. Even though Lin Yao never acknowledged her, she continued to appear in every corner of his life. When he drank coffee, she would sit in a corner of the cafe, ordering the same drink as him, familiarizing herself with his current tastes. When he studied in the library, she would sit across from him with a book, her eyes on the pages, but her peripheral vision always on him. 3 months into Qian's pursuit, Lin Yao finally stopped and looked at her. The familiar look in his eyes made her heart flutter. She thought her wait was finally over. But when he reached her, he said with a blank expression, Qian, haven't you had enough? Have you become a stalker? You're disgusting me. Qian felt like she had fallen into an icy abyss. The boy who once only had eyes for her now told her she disgusted him. With tears welling up, she pleaded, Yao, I'm sorry, I'm disturbing you. I just miss you so much. The days without you have been like living death. I can't eat or sleep. I'm in so much pain, Io. Only when I see you do I feel alive. Io, please give me another chance. I beg you, just one more chance. Lin Yao felt nothing at her desperate plea. His calm gaze unnerved her. She pulled a small ebony ring from her pocket and looked at him cautiously. Io, do you remember this? You carved it for me on my 20th birthday. You said you would use it to bind me to you, that we would never. Before she could finish, Lin Yao snatched the ring from her hand and threw it into the nearby artificial lake without hesitation. Qian, wake up. The ring is gone, and so are we. Qian's breath hitched. She rushed to the railing by the lake, glanced back at Lin Yao, and without a moment's hesitation, jumped in. Finding a ring in the vast artificial lake was an almost impossible task. But Qian refused to give up. She swam back and forth, searching every crevice between the water weeds. From dawn till dusk, students on the shore urged her to stop, telling her it was hopeless. But Qian just shook her head, took a deep breath, and dove back in. The ring was a memento of their love. She believed that as long as the ring existed, Io wouldn't leave her. He would come back to her someday. Finally, under a loose stone, she found the small ebony ring. She picked it up and excitedly climbed ashore. She searched around the lake, but Lin Yao was nowhere to be seen. He was long gone. Exhausted and drenched, Qian searched the campus several times before finally finding Lin Yao at the library exit. He was descending the stairs alongside a beautiful, elegant girl. The girl said something that made Lin Yao lean his head towards her shoulder, laughing happily. Qian, trembling all over, blocked their path. She held up the ebony ring and spoke with a hoarse voice, Yao, I found the ring. Doesn't this mean we still have a chance? Yao, give me another chance, okay? Lin Yao took a step back, held the girl's hand beside him, and gently shook his head. No. Let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend, Gusi. Qian stumbled back 2 steps, almost losing her balance. She shook her head repeatedly, refusing to believe Lin Yao's words. You must be lying. You just don't want to forgive me, right? Lin Yao didn't answer her. Gusi, as if declaring her sovereignty, intertwined her fingers with Lin Yao's and led him away from the scene. Only after making sure Qian hadn't followed did Lin Yao let out a long sigh of relief. Phew, she shouldn't bother me anymore this time. As he spoke, he suddenly realized his hand was still holding Gusi's. He quickly stepped back and thanked Gusi. It's a good thing I ran into you today. Thank you for being my shield. Under the moonlight, Gusi looked at him with an incredibly gentle gaze. I should be thanking you. It was my honor. Lin Yao was startled by the ambiguous meaning in her tone and subconsciously lowered his head to avoid her gaze. The Gu and Lin families were business partners, and Lin Yao's mother had introduced Gusi to him. His mother hoped he could move on from the shadows of the past. He understood his mother's good intentions and hadn't refused. Gusi's family background was similar to his, and she was gentle and polite. He had a good impression of her, but hadn't considered a deeper relationship. While he was lost in thought, Gusi stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Yao, she called him softly, do you know, when I saw Qian just now, I was even more panicked than you were. Lin Yao abruptly looked up, surprised that Gusi knew Qian. The words she spoke next completely stirred his long-dormant heart. Before, as long as Qian was around, your eyes couldn't see anyone else. So, you never knew that in the library, on the basketball court, in the laboratory, there was someone silently watching you. Yao, I know you've been through a lot. Perhaps, for you, starting a new relationship is a very difficult thing. But I still want to muster the courage to tell you, Yao, I like you. Whether you are Jiang Yao or Lin Yao, I like you. It took me many years to be able to get to your side. I don't want to miss this opportunity. Yao, please consider me. The beautiful face before him overlapped with those inconspicuous memories hidden in the corners of his mind. Lin Yao's eyes widened in shock, and his nose felt a little sore. He never knew that during the years he silently pursued Qian, someone was silently watching him from behind. Among those who pointed fingers at him, there was also someone who used a small voice to defend him. Fortunately, he hadn't missed such a sincere affection. 3 years later, a magnificent wedding was being held at Ning City's largest tulip estate. Rumor had it that the bride, Gusi, head of a leading global energy company, had a particular fondness for tulips. The groom, Lin Yao, general manager of the MCD group, had returned to the country a year early specifically to purchase the estate and plant the entire garden with tulips for his bride. They had already held a globally watched, extravagant wedding in the United States, but this small wedding reception in Gusi's hometown of Ning City still left every guest in awe. Many prominent figures from Ning City attended the wedding. It was their closest opportunity to interact with these two heirs of vast fortunes. Qian was naturally among them. Looking at the dazzling groom in his tailored suit not far away, Qian felt as if she were in a different world. She could barely remember how long it had been since she last saw her Yao. 3 years ago, she had relentlessly pursued Yao on their American campus. At first, she thought Gu Si was just a smokescreen. But later, she watched them come and go together, growing closer day by day. Jiang Yao thought he had seen the one who had been silently following him, and was touched that she was willing to accept his kindness and reciprocate with some care. You have. In that moment, Qian lost her breath. She distinctly heard the sound of her soul leaving her body. A bone-chilling pain spread through her, and she collapsed to the ground, losing all her strength. After that, she never saw Yao again. Later, the Qi family's business suffered a major setback, teetering on the brink of bankruptcy overnight. Qian had to end her studies early and return home to shoulder the family's burdens. After years of struggle, she managed to keep the Qi family business afloat, neither worse nor better. Every time she saw Yao's picture in the news, she felt the distance between them growing wider and wider. Hundreds of fireworks went off, their brilliance reflecting in the tulips, eliciting screams from the crowd. Everyone was congratulating and envying the perfect couple on stage. Qian wasn't standing close, but she clearly heard Lin Yao's firm and resolute "I do." She smiled faintly. She vaguely remembered that a few years ago, on her 20th birthday, Yao had given her a hand-carved ebony ring. In a drunken haze, she took the ring from him and mumbled, "Yao, are you proposing to me?" He blushed, lowering his head, unable to look at her. Qian, intoxicated, made her first promise to him, who says only men can propose. "I'll propose to Yao someday too." "So, if I propose to you, what would you say?" she teased him. A gentle voice brushed against her ear. He said, "I do. The same I do as today." Qian slowly backed away from the crowd and walked into the distance. It was a beautiful day, the sunlight warm, but in her eyes, it was intensely painful. Tears welled up in the sunlight, and Qian, standing in the warmth, shivered. Those summers of love and hate were gone forever.